Let's do it here. Another edition of Guys on the Go. All the sports talk you need in less than 40 minutes. Happy Thanksgiving week, depending on when you're listening to this episode. Appreciate you making us a part of the holiday. Before we get into all the sports talk, we want to tell you about the people that make this possible. We start off with our friends at Mohawk Honda. No matter where you're watching, listening to this episode of Guys on the Go, do yourself a favor. Before 2021 ends, make the drive out to Glenville, New York, and talk to our friends in Mohawk Honda. Whether it's Greg Johnson, Lindsay Airden, Cam McKenna, Jake, John in service, there's so many more people I'd love to give a shout out to. You're going to have the opportunity to meet all those great people on staff at Mohawk Honda. When you're finding yourself a new vehicle, take advantage of the Kelley Blue Book offer. Kelley Blue Book offer, where you can drive to the lot at Mohawk Honda and drive away with a new vehicle and money in your pocket. Check them out on social media as well, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Our guys are always giving the updates of the new vehicles that you can find, showing off the personalities for the staff and more. It's all happening at Mohawk Honda. I drove into the capital region and then back to central New York and then back and forth. Been doing it on my Pilot. Don't have to worry about the vehicle breaking down or having things go wrong. And if it does, Sean's always there. It's probably my fault anyways. Guess what? The Pilot and other vehicles can have the same braking rate I have as the best ride you've ever had in your life. Mohawk Honda, where they always go out of their way to please you. And Johnstone Supply in Troy. Are you hosting friends or family this holiday season? Is your house safe? We're talking about the updated furnace, the updated situations involving your heating, your air filters, and more. The crew at Johnstone Supply in Troy can make sure it is good to go for you. Goodman Furnaces now in stock, made right here in the USA, dependable, efficient, and more. It's time for the upgrade. Out here in central New York, the snow is hitting the ground. Are you ready to go for the snow and the colder weather to come? Johnstone Supply in Troy can help you. They've been helping people across upstate New York for decades. Family owned and operated. Our guy George has been doing wonderful things for decades now in the capital region. Now we can help you. 518-272-5922. 518-272-5922 is the number to call if you want to connect with our friends at Johnstone Supply in Troy. Maybe it's our guy Tom, Kev, James, whoever it might be. They want to help you to make sure your home is safe and ready to go. And I will be calling that number very soon because I need a new nest. CO2, fire, all that stuff. My nest has expired, so maybe this holiday season, make sure your stuff is updated too. Johnstone Supply in Troy. Check them out on Facebook. And one more time for the number, 518-272-5922. All right, let's do it. Let's get into this week's episode of Guys on the Go. For those of you who are out partying and drinking, everything else that Thanksgiving Eve before, let me catch up on what happened with Syracuse basketball, where we lead off this Guys on the Go Thanksgiving Day edition with, what the hell happened? I feel like I've used that phrase more than any other phrase in describing Syracuse athletics in 2021. If you missed it, Syracuse, another double-digit loss to VCU. So put that on the board along with the double-digit loss to Colgate. 100-85, that loss where, God, decade upon decade past, they had not lost to Colgate, Syracuse, and now you lose to VCU. So here's how I watched that game, by the way, Syracuse and VCU. I had it on mute. I got the baby running around. There's a second baby watching it with friends. The game's on mute, and it's very easy on mute to figure out exactly what's going wrong with Syracuse. Easy. They're not athletic. They don't have the players. I was so excited it's not too far away. What, a podcast or two ago? Where I told you how excited I was about Syracuse basketball, how this team could shoot, they're going to be dangerous potentially in 2023. This team was going to be a Final Four team, hell, a national championship team. Now with these players, Syracuse basketball for the 2021-2022 team would be good if it was the 1950s. Hell, it looks more like the Syracuse Nationals out there. This team would be a good team if Dolph Schayes, George Mikan, Bob Pettit, Bob Cousy, that's what this team would look like. Slow, can shoot, good technique, good basketball IQ. They're not athletic enough. Example, 2-3 zone. Ball gets to the right side, you got to move your feet, you got to put a hand up, you got to defend somebody. Nobody does it. People are eating apart the zone. Whether it's Colgate hitting bombs or VCU just having that extra pass. So you don't have the athletes to play zone. Do you have good enough shooters? No doubt. But all of a sudden the ball goes to the rim. Who the hell's rebounding it? So you got nobody who can rebound. You're not athletic enough to play defense. That's it. This is your team. If you told me it was something that Hall of Fame coach Jim Boeheim could fix, like, you know what? Rebounding, you got to put a body on somebody. Or Syracuse got to get better at the foul line. Or Syracuse got to get one pass better. Those are things you can work on in practice. You're going to get arm transplants? Leg transplants? You're going to become more athletic? You're going to juice them up with some steroids? That's not going to happen. This is the Syracuse basketball team you're going to get. I cannot believe how quick I've flipped on Syracuse. And it hurts as a Syracuse fan. Now, maybe if you're not a Syracuse fan and you're listening, you're going to tell me, guys, here's what's going to happen. This is classic Syracuse basketball for a decade plus. You lose to teams you're not supposed to lose to. You're going to, during the ACC schedule, beat some teams ranked maybe as high as the top 5. Hell, you might knock off the number 1 team in the country. You're going to have quality victories with bad losses. You'll sneak in on the bubble. Hell, you might play in the round of 68 game. And you'll go to the second weekend of the Sweet 16 because the zone's a bad matchup. Maybe that's already settled for this Syracuse team. And for non-Syracuse fans, they feel like that's an easy prediction. Could happen. But played like this, they don't have the players. They don't. Now, maybe the lack of athleticism, the lack of defense, the lack of rebounding, you can flat out just outshoot teams and you'll live by the 3, die by the 3, and that's what this team's going to be. You're going to have exciting runs and upsets. But boy, bad losses. And if you're a Syracuse fan and you want to argue they're going to miss the tournament, hell, I've seen tweets that people don't know if they're going to be a 500 team. I get it. I'm going to hold faith. That Syracuse can just shoot their way out of games coming up in the ACC. That they'll find a way into the tournament. But there are some problems on Syracuse basketball that flat out cannot be fixed this season. And it's going to be brutal for some games with these teams out-athlete the Orange. Let's keep the Syracuse athletics theme going here with Syracuse football. They're going to end their season this Saturday in a prime-time game. Saturday night, 7:30 kickoff inside the Carrier Dome as they take on the Pitt Panthers. The Pitt Panthers, nationally ranked in the top 20. They're going to play for the ACC championship the following week. Kenny Pickett, potentially the number 1 pick overall in the NFL draft. But if Syracuse beats Pitt in one of the big upsets in the ACC this season, guess what? The Orange are bowl eligible. And they're going off to a game in December, which I'm rooting for. You've heard the podcast so many times. I've talked about the Fenway Bowl and the Pinstripe Bowl and everything else. They still got an opportunity. But this doesn't feel good either. Why is the game at night? Syracuse basketball potentially, maybe some other teams. It feels far more that the game is at night because of what ESPN, ABC, and the affiliates want. They want this to be the Kenny Pickett showcase game. They want the Todd McShays, the Mel Kipers, the NFL draft experts to say, this is the guy. If you haven't watched potentially the number 1 pick overall in the NFL draft coming up this spring, here's your guy. So you're going to have a showcase game for Kenny Pickett. He'll play next week in the ACC title game, and he's going to expose Syracuse indoors. Doesn't have to worry about the late November weather as you're played inside a dome. Pittsburgh hits a national stage to say we're the best team in the ACC. It's not Clemson. It's not NC State. It's us. And we're going to prove to people we're one of the most underrated college football programs the past 20 years with multiple Hall of Famers coming out of our program. How about Darrell Revis, Aaron Donald, and Larry Fitzgerald? That's what Pitt football has been able to do over the past 2 decades. Do I believe Syracuse can pull off the upset? I don't know how. What are they going to do? They can't pass. Sean Tucker's fantastic. We'll get to him in his comments here in a second. But they've been exposed. Garrett Schrader can't throw. What Garrett Schrader's best strength was Tommy DeVito's biggest weakness. Schrader can run. He can't pass. DeVito can pass. He really can't run. So that's what's happened for Syracuse. Defense is fine. Sean Tucker's amazing. But in similar fashion to the Syracuse basketball discussion we just had, the football team doesn't have the horses to hang with Pitt. Maybe Pickett gets a big turnover, but not a quarterback like him. So we mentioned that the Sean Tucker quote, right? That's out there in the Syracuse media that Sean Tucker's going to stick with 34. The rumors out there that he might transfer. All indications say that he's going to stay. Here's my question to Syracuse fans, and even if Sean Tucker consider why? I'm not trying to say that defending the Orange and going to go on this long rant about why Syracuse football is up to the standards, but you are a running back who's getting carries. You're a running back who's potentially going to lead the country in yards. Just because Kenneth Walker, the third transfers, means you have to? What's the benefit of going to, an Alabama and being the second stringer? You don't think teams can see you? People know how good you are right now. They see your stats. They see your numbers. Every coach from Dabo Sweeney and on is giving you the scout report how good you are. You want to take bigger hits against better defenses and potentially risk injury? I don't get the Sean Tucker transfer thing. It makes zero sense to me. You're getting everything you want as a running back. You're getting touches, you're getting carries, and you're not going to have the same type of competition to lose those things out. So I don't get that. Dino Babers. Final question in the press conference. Asked about his job security in 2022. Paraphrasing here, something along the lines of, I own my career. My employer owns my job. What in the world? Is this just like a really cool cliche thing to say, even though I've never heard that, so it's not even a cliche? It sounds good. If you're a Syracuse football fan, either you're pro Babers or you're not. You either were on the paid Dino train, or if you looked at some of his decisions, especially with clock management, and wondered, what are you doing? And that comes down to coaching, no doubt. But realistically, what were your expectations for Syracuse football after a 1-win season in 2020? 8 wins? 9 wins? Didn't you think really Syracuse football would be at this spot? 5-6 heading to the final week, 6-5? That's what I thought in my preseason. I was hoping for 6 victories in that bowl game, no matter where it was. So it's not as if Syracuse football fell off of what realistic expectations were. It just hurt a little bit more because these games were close. And think about the opposite side. Let's say Syracuse was 8-3 going to this game. You're telling me Dino Babers, after a 1-win season, a guy who's all about offense, who's got West Coast connections, wouldn't have left Syracuse anyways? You're telling me Dino Babers would not have jumped to Washington or been in discussion for the USC job? James Franklin and Mel Tucker signed monster contracts because they were rumored to go to places like LSU and others. You're telling me Dino Babers couldn't have got out of his contract at Syracuse to go to one of those spots? So Babers might have been gone no matter what, either to a new school or to potentially get fired, which I don't believe is going to happen here, unless he takes a job somehow. Syracuse football, 10 guys have transferred out of the team from the start of the season. You've got an All-American quarterback you're playing against who's potentially going for the Heisman Trophy, a number 1 overall draft pick, the Davey O'Brien, any other trophy you want to talk about, Kenny Pickett, on a primetime stage. I don't feel good for my Orange. I'll be rooting for you, but it's going to be tough to find ways to beat this Pitt team on Saturday night. It's the holidays. I'm trying my best here on Guys on the Go to be a little positive, bring some cheer to make you smile, to be happy. The headlines of the week are not making that easy for me. New York Giants fans, you saw the beatdown laid on that team by my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Giants get smashed by Tampa on Monday Night Football. It was terrible. Dan Orlovsky from ESPN showed the cut of 3 receivers running at each other, called it embarrassing, and a few hours after that clip went viral. Offensive coordinator Jason Garrett fired from the New York Giants, and Giants fans, maybe you view this as a positive. You're thrilled. Garrett was the reason the team was no good. Garrett's the reason they sucked, blah, 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 everything else. That was totally embarrassing. From every spot of the team, from quarterback to GM to head coach to talent, everybody was awful against Tampa. I was excited about the Giants going into that game if you were a Giant fan. Now I'm a Bucs fan, and I said at our show at the Hideaway, I didn't feel confident Tampa would cover. All the stats in primetime games had worked against Brady. Tampa had looked so bad against New Orleans, bad against Washington. They covered all right. Mike Evans set a new franchise record for touchdowns in a Tampa career, everything else, but it's more about the Giants for this. Because the New York Giants have been one of the worst teams in the NFL the past 5+ seasons. Win-loss record, developing superstars, finding any type of offense, being competitive in bad divisions. The Giants have been one of the worst, if not the worst, arguably, in the NFL for half a decade. And it doesn't look any better. Now, this week, I'm going to give you a little quick spoiler here. With all those bad things happening, I do like the Giants to cover against the Eagles this week. Divisional dogs is my new thing to do, especially after that Texans-Titans matchup last week. So even though it's 3.5, you would think with the new offensive coordinator, it's a little tougher to game plan for what the X's and O's are going to be and might be a test for Philadelphia. So because of all those things, I will take the Giants to cover in a divisional dog matchup. Now, with that all being said, let me tell you like the old headlines for tomorrow, potentially. Darren Ravel, Jason McIntyre for Fox does stuff like this. The headlines for tomorrow. And I feel as if I'm in the minority on this about the Giants actually playing well against Philly because of the new offensive coordinator. Other Giants will feel like this. If they get smacked again, the fan base, the diehard Big Blue fans, will say fire everybody. From Judge to Gettleman to Daniel Jones, blow the entire thing up and start from scratch one more time. Because we can go back years ago, and I've said this, that Daniel Jones has had some moments where he's looked like an NFL starter. Yes, that's a compliment. But other times it goes back to arguably one of the worst quarterback selections in the first round of the last 15 years. As I pointed out before to you, that Daniel Jones was the 5th best quarterback according to coaches and media in the ACC, but somehow was the 2nd overall drafted quarterback in that year draft class. The Giants believed in him. Saquon Barkley, a stud at Penn State, constantly hurt, and has been a zero impact for how many seasons? 2+ now for the Giants? The Odell Beckham Jr. trade feels as if it's a huge wash. But the Giants, Dave Gettleman, the moves he's made, at times we've seen flashes, but flashes are not good enough. Joe Judge, you've seen games where the team looked improved, but improved from terrible is still not going to get you in playoff contention. And Daniel Jones is the same thing. Some good throws, some good plays, athletic ability, but not good enough to be a good team in the NFL. You're not going for good enough, average, okay, improving. You're going for a Super Bowl championship. And the Giants feel so far away from it. I'm confident this weekend they'll bounce back. But if they don't bounce back, everybody on that Giant staff is likely looking for a new job in 2022. For the first time ever in his career, LeBron James suspended for a game. The fight that breaks out between Rochester's own Isaiah Stewart and LeBron, back and forth, the blood flowing, the shades of Becky Lynch out there with the blood flowing down the face of Isaiah Stewart. And LeBron actually getting suspended by the NBA. Good for the NBA for doing it, because I was prepared days in advance of this podcast to tell you this whole take about how the NBA caters to LeBron and the superstars, and because the game was in Madison Square Garden for the night on Tuesday where he was suspended, it's all about ratings, and they wanted the headlines and blah, blah. I was ready to roast that alien that is Adam Silver. That they just catered to LeBron, and how dare Isaiah Stewart's face get in the way of the King's elbow? How dare he? He should have been suspended for 5 games for even getting in his way, but it didn't happen. The NBA leveled a fine and a suspension that matched the crime. The Lakers and LeBron got some issues too, right? Russell Westbrook and LeBron still haven't found the chemistry. The Lakers look old every single night they go out there. Shout out to the Knicks fans, by the way, giving my guy Carmelo Anthony a standing ovation. You look at this Laker team, how are they going to beat the Warriors? How are they going to beat Golden State? Klay Thompson's not back. Klay Thompson's nowhere close to being the Klay Thompson quite yet we've seen before. Steph Curry's putting on a show. Steve Kerr might be a good coach. And I've questioned that because of how good that roster's been. Western Conference is stacked. Lakers look old. The East, the Milwaukee Bucks haven't got anything going yet. But it's an exciting Eastern Conference with young talent across the East. LeBron, Lakers, what's happening? This is not the days of the Miami Heat LeBron. Hell, this is not the bubble LeBron. When are the Lakers going to look around and be like, I know Russell Westbrook is one of the great athletic point guards of all time, but should he come off the bench? LeBron, see, here's the thing, man. We got to blow this up again. We got to find some other guys who fit your style. Or how many years in a row will they just continue to say, we're going to build this team around LeBron? Will that ever stop? Like, can you imagine LeBron being 40 years old? Bronny's getting ready to come in the league like year 3. Be like, yeah, but shouldn't we build around LeBron? When is that stuff going to stop, if ever? There is going to be a point where some franchise says, okay, it's time to move on to the future. I know you're LeBron James, but this isn't working out anymore. We can't keep going all in. The Lakers have a lot of those decisions to make, but good for the NBA making that move and actually suspending the King. Survivor Series was brutal. I want to come on here and talk about how Becky Lynch and Charlotte put on one of the great matches of all time in women's wrestling. It was a really good match. Interesting finish. It was a really good match, though. But it led off Survivor Series, and that was it. Talk about stealing the show and being better than everybody else who was out there. That's what Charlotte and Becky were able to do, and good for them. What else is going to be memorable from this year's Survivor Series? Whatever that egg thing is that Vince McMahon did, the main event between Roman Reigns and Big E. And there's the problem, right? Somehow, someway, the internet had the rumor out there that The Rock was going to come back. People in Brooklyn were hoping for The Rock's music. If you smash, and the place's roof to come off. Didn't happen. In comparison to AEW, where you've had these little hints of the return of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and all these other former WWE guys, they paid off. Even a thing like a Hangman Page winning the championship, it paid off. If you know your fans are coming for a certain reason, hell, the WWE's done this before. With guys like Brock Lesnar, the Brock Lesnar return almost a decade ago now, they knew he was going to be there. And that's okay for those rumors to leak because you get the fans excited. So Survivor Series disappointed. And I mentioned the fans one more time because that's been the talk of professional wrestling. That Brooklyn crowd, the Barclays Center, used to be the crowd. Go back and watch some of these old SummerSlams, and I know some would point to Rollins and Balor, how the crowd ruined it when the Universal Championship belt looked so bad. But how about the NXT shows? Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance and more. Great. Brooklyn crowd used to be awesome, but that's the story is the Brooklyn crowd was not into the show at all. They didn't want anything to do with it. It's quiet. And then the next day, Seth Rollins gets attacked by a fan in Brooklyn. Now, Bully Ray, a.k.a. Bubba Ray Dudley, however you know him, he had these quotes on Sirius XM that noted that it's the best thing ever to happen in Seth Rollins' career. When a tag team like the Dudley Boys used to constantly have fans try to fight them because they got so much heat, because people despised them so much that they thought it was so real they wanted to fight them. MJF last night, right? The CM Punk promo back and forth where they're going at it and he's just drawing so much putrid scumbag feel from people. That's what you got to do as you're a pro wrestler bad guy. That's not why he attacked him. The internet reports out there that he thought he was getting catfished by Colby Lopez, a.k.a. the real name of Seth Rollins. I would have been cool with somebody jumping over the barricade and fighting MJF. I would have been cool with the old school ECW where the fan believes it so much that they actually think this guy needs a complete ass kicking. That's not what happened. That's not why Seth Rollins got attacked. But it is entertaining when the wrestlers can just tee off on somebody and everything else. Survivor Series wasn't good. Disappointed. AEW continues to feed for the interest of the fans and do the payoffs that they want. We're closing out the end of the year. We'll see what the Royal Rumble is set up for. What other surprises AEW might have for the rest of this year coming up for professional wrestling. And a little abbreviated version here of Guys on the Go because we're just going to talk about the final weekend in college football and give you our picks. Great matchups in the final weekend. We get the Iron Bowl, Alabama versus Auburn. You got Bedlam. You know, I'm going to a little mix and match here with the picks this week. A little mix and match. You know what? Screw it. Let's just do the picks right now. We'll do the picks right now. And you know what? Our picks are brought to you by Northeastern Insurance. Our pal Jared Lozier. If you're hanging out this holiday with friends and family, you're starting to talk about, hey, what are you planning to do in 2022? What are you doing with your investments? If people are talking about ways in which that you can make some money for next year and something you hadn't thought about before, bring up Northeastern Insurance and Jared Lozier. He's the guy that you can trust when you're working on finding the right way to use your finances for the upcoming year and to protect what's important to you in your life, whether it's your car, your business, the assets in your life that you hope to keep close. Jared Lozier wants to help you find those ways to do it. Email him today, jaredl@nemail.com. jaredl@nemail.com for your chance to learn more about how you can have your stuff insured. And if you want to reach out to Jared, our pal, just check out his information right here on the bottom of the podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, or if you're watching on our YouTube side, his number is right there in more ways to contact Northeastern Insurance, Jared Lozier. And you might see Jared at the Hideaway coming up. Levac and I will be broadcasting this Saturday, an early broadcast, 10:30 to noon. And that's the best game of the college football weekend. I'll give you my picks in a second, but let's talk about Ohio State, Michigan first. C.J. Stroud, Wilson, Olave, Coach Day on Ohio State. Ohio State's now jumped to number 2 in the country in the polls after their impressive blowout victory over Michigan State, while Michigan bringing up the Wolverine State. They should have beat Michigan State. 16-point lead against the Spartans. They just can't hold on if they don't turn over the football. Michigan is undefeated, and they're the number 2 team in the country heading to this match against Ohio State. Isn't it amazing to think if you're a Michigan fan, you've lost one game this season after blowing a 16-point lead and you still feel like you're disrespected this season? Even if you're number 5, you feel like you're disrespected. I'm rooting for Michigan because I want to see how far Harbaugh can take this, and we've seen Ohio State just dominate this rivalry, just come off a dominating victory. 97 Hutchinson's going to be the difference in this game. 7.5's the spread I'm seeing. I know my guy Trout and Chad and Levac. It's going to be worth the admission to come watch the game with those guys who are both Ohio State and Michigan fans across the board. Ohio State by a touchdown, but Michigan keeps it very close in the first half. Give me a 28-21 final. Ohio State over Michigan barely. Ohio State pulls away in the second half. Michigan has opportunities. The defense steps up for the Buckeyes. Stroud, he's going to be thrown to Olave. Nobody can guard him. And that's the difference in the game. Although Hutchinson 97 again for Michigan. I love saying this number because you got to see him stand out on your TV. He's going to be good. Bedlam. Here's our first pick for the college football plays of the week. I got 4 plays for you. I love Oklahoma State against Oklahoma. I told you last week I bet against Oklahoma State because they took Texas Tech. I thought it was a trap game. Oh, man, that Cowboy defense is so good. Another team that'd be undefeated if they didn't lose to Iowa State. Defense is the key in this one. I like Oklahoma State to trounce Oklahoma because who's going to play quarterback? Oklahoma's consistently got healthy, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter if this guy's banged up or not. It doesn't matter. They just continue to win close games. You could argue Oklahoma State was the same way, but the defense has gotten so much better. And the under. People love Rattler. People love Caleb Williams. Preseason hype, Heisman Trophy talk, and everything. These guys are not good enough to go against the Oklahoma State defense. Under in Oklahoma State, 3.5. Florida fired their coach. How many times are they going to do this over and over and over again? Dan Mullen's gone. Gators are done. They're toast. Florida State has a chance for a bowl game. Give me the Florida State Seminoles plus 2.5 in that game. And Notre Dame somehow, some way can find their way into the college football playoff right after Bear Felica guaranteed they had no shot to do it. They will trounce Stanford. Brian Kelly will go for it on 2 if they're up by 4 touchdowns to pound Stanford and leave no doubt for the playoff committee that they should be in. So those are my 4 picks. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma under, Florida State, and Notre Dame. And again, a 7-point victory. I feel like Ohio State's going to pull that off in that game against Michigan. The NFL, Thanksgiving week. I'll give you 1 play for Thanksgiving. 1 play for Turkey Day. Oh my God, Jack Morgan on Twitter is going to be mad at and talk about the Egg Bowl. High scoring as always in the Egg Bowl, Jack. Shout out to him, the Egg Bowl. 1 play for Thursday. How about an over in Bills Saints? Drew Brees is on the call. Game's in New Orleans. The Bills fans have packed NOLA. Give me some points. I've loved picking against the Saints recently, but this has got to be a shootout for this game. The Bills look so terrible against Indianapolis. 2 really good coaches on a short week, McDermott and Payton. Shootout. Bills, Saints, over 45.5. I like that. I've already told you I like the Giants. Divisional dogs is what it's all about for me. Divisional dogs. Give me the Giants plus 3.5. Give me the Broncos in their matchup against the Chargers plus 2.5. I like that one as well. So those are the ones that jump out to me initially. Giants, Broncos, and Bills, Saints over. I got to give you 1 more. I don't feel confident after that, though. I'd like those 3 really. You know what? I'm sticking with 3. Should I? I love when I just like talk it out with you two, right? Should I go with 3? Should I go with 4? Is there any other one that jumps out to me? Do I just go with another divisional game to make it happen? Yeah, you know what? Screw it. There's another divisional game on there. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a 4.5-point dog against the Bengals. Let's do it. 3 divisional dogs. Pittsburgh, Denver, the Giants, over in Bills, Saints. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoy it. Cannot wait to see everybody at the Hideaway this Saturday morning. Enjoying it. Thanks to Founders Week, by the way. Thanks to Northeastern Insurance, Mohawk Honda, Johnstone Supply, and Troy. Enjoy the turkey. Catch you all Saturday morning.